My ants are planning an escape, but not for the reason you might think. This is my young, aggressive ant colony, and they've grown so large that they're starting to get out of hand. If I don't stop their secret plan soon, they'll rule over my boat, slaughtering any creature in their path. So yeah, it's kind of a big deal. It all began a few days ago when I noticed a sand trail leading up from their homemade outworld onto the roof. I quickly realized what it meant. My ants had broken through the Vaseline barrier I've set up and were now scurrying across the roof, trying to escape through gaps in the lid. If I didn't act fast, they would break free from my DIY setup and wreak havoc. They had secretly been building a bridge out of sand to expand their empire beyond my borders. It had gotten so bad that I couldn't even open the lid. If they wanted to expand, fine, but I needed reinforcements. Only one place could supply what I needed on such short notice. The only physical ant shop in Singapore, Just Ants. I didn't waste any time, heading straight to Just Ants across Singapore. Meanwhile, back at the boat, the ants were still hard at work attacking my defenses. Earlier, they had found a crack in the lid and sent a small unit into the outside world. It was a bit of a chaotic scene. I grabbed the closest piece of tape, slapped it over the hole, and hoped for the best. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to film the whole thing. Every minute I was away could mean the ants were getting closer to escaping for good. At Just Ants, the variety of ant species for sale were overwhelming, but I wasn't there just to browse. I had two objectives: liquid escape prevention and a suitable new home for my colony. After spending over $50 on what I needed, I headed back to the boat, not sure what to expect when I arrived. If they had made any more progress, my boat might already be under their control. As soon as I returned, it was clear. My ants had me under siege. I tried opening the lid to assess the situation, and they flooded out, trying to bite my fingers. This wasn't going to be easy. They weren't just aggressive, they were organized. If I was going to relocate them without being swarmed, I needed to outsmart them. That's when I remembered their weakness: blueberry ant juice. I grabbed the juice, placed it in the outworld, and watched as they swarmed it, completely distracted by this sweet treat. This was my chance. While they were busy with the juice, I carefully cracked open the lid, trying not to draw attention. It wasn't much time, but enough to get a quick look and assess the situation. My plan was finally in motion. Alright, the next step was moving them into their new kingdom. The nest I picked up from Just Ants was a major upgrade. Sleek with multiple test tubes, a clear outworld, and staircase leading up to higher levels. Compared to the janky DIY setup they had been in, this was practically an ant mansion. However, before we move them in, I'm gonna make some preparations. I'll start by putting liquid escape prevention along the entire rim of the outworld. Then I'll put a thin layer of sand along the floor. Once the liquid escape prevention is dried, I can peel off the tape, which is so satisfying. I wanted to see if it actually worked though, so I dumped in a single ant from the colony to see what would happen. I was so relieved when I could see that it worked. But the hard part was still ahead. I had to move the entire colony over without triggering a mass breakout. Timing was everything. First, I unplugged the test tube from the old outworld. My hands were shaky. I knew that if I fumbled even a little, the ants would swarm out. In one quick motion, I placed the test tube in the new outworld. So far, so good. But I needed to deal with the ants that were already roaming around the outworld. Despite the escapees, I started sweeping up the stragglers and placing them in the new home with the cotton ball. But this was not going to work. Far too many ants were escaping, and it was just taking too long. So my only decision was to dump the entire contents of the outworld into the new one, sand and all. A few tried to climb the edges, but the liquid escape prevention did its job and, well, prevented them from escaping. For now, it seemed like their empire expanding plans were on hold. The new nest stood before them, waiting for them to explore it. I watched as they brought all of the baby ants, aka the brood, into the new nest and into the tube I set up for them. To make the move more appealing, I decided to throw in a snack. After the queen and brood were tucked away in the test tube, I offered them a massive prey item, a fly I had caught earlier. Despite its erratic movements, which sent ants scattering at first, the fly was no match for my colony. The soldiers quickly overpowered it and dragged it into the new nest. This would provide the protein they needed to continue growing, making the new nest feel like home. Now, with the colony now securely moved in, you might be wondering why none of the ants have explored the higher levels. Well, that's because I've blocked off the access with red film for now. 2 test tubes are all the colony needs at the moment, but as they continue to expand, I'll need to give them access to more and more space. Soon enough, they'll be ready to expand their borders even further. But that, my friends, is a story for another video. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss that one and all my other ant videos. Thank you so much for watching.